Okay, good morning, everybody. Tim Melton with Travis again for another one of our talks.
Happy holidays
on real estate. Merry Christmas to everybody. We're in December in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina, and we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about. I know the last time we had a talk number 7, we left off with the fact that we're going to talk about some wholesaling today, and Travis and I both have kind of been doing a little bit more research on that and participating in that. So Travis has got a couple of good deals that we want to share your way, just kind of encourage you while you hear all of this to take some time, invest in some education yourself, read a lot, and you'll be able to figure these things out if you just put a little time and effort into it. So Travis, tell us what's up on the wholesale end.
Yeah, we looked in the episode 7, we were talking about wholesaling could be one of these solid places or a good place to be in the next downturn in the economy, along with, we mentioned also rentals. We thought Airbnbs would probably likely do well in that economy as well. But wholesaling, we just did one, and I was going to talk about it. This was at 1505 Long Paw here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this one came to us via one of our off-market vendors. So when you guys see we buy houses or cash for houses, or when you see the signs on the side of the road, the sign of the highway, they're posted in all different ways and manners. Go ahead and pick up your phone and call those numbers and try and get on their buyers list if you're to the point where you're looking to buy flips and or wholesale properties. Another side of that, if you're trying to find a way to get rid of your wholesale properties, again, good to call those people. It's another avenue for you to get your wholesales out if that's the angle you're looking at. But this is one of the ones they called me and said, hey, we've got a property under contract, and I went out and took a look at it. And I know Tim's going to step in with some credit here. But we were looking at, I went and started looking at the project in a completely traditional flip manner. And we had an ARV on this one as high as, if we do it completely up, we could probably get to 185. Our target on it would have been 180 in the time of year that we're in. The market doesn't usually flow quite as fast when it's cold outside. So when we were looking at the project that way, we were looking at putting in about $20,000 on it, $20,000 to $23,000 in rehab, and getting shooting for a goal of $180,000. And this rehab is probably a 2.5 week rehab. And then of course we got to do a traditional listing on the MLS and go through that process. So, we were looking at it, and Tim said, hey, why are you going to do the rehab on it? And because it was in relatively good condition for properties we usually get. And this should still be on Zillow and or certainly MLS records. It's on there. It's 1505 Long Paw. And the condition you see the photos in, and the condition that I purchased the property, totally livable. The people were living in it. They moved out. We paid someone a minuscule clean out fee to go clean out the property. And we went ahead and just said, okay, we're going to list it for 1 week. And if we happen to get a solid offer on it, we're just going to let it go and not go through all the extra steps of and risk of deploying more capital and more time into the property. So we listed it up 167.5 with a target ARV on it of 180. Maybe you could convince somebody 185, or they could convince themselves. And sure enough, next day we got multiple offers on it. The first contract we took was from a realtor that I'd worked with prior, who had a buyer that unfortunately that realtor had not worked with before, and I don't know how well that realtor vetted the client, but they contracted the property, and they went out and they started getting some quotes for it for carpet and paint on a 13. Let me double check my math on the square footage there. Let's see, it is. Sorry, it's a 1,600 square foot house. To get carpet and paint done in that property, he was quoted $15,500. Now, I do not know where he went to get that quote, but you're looking at, I don't know, what is that? $10 a square foot in paint or something like that. Your paint numbers, guys, should be somewhere around $1.75 to good, maybe $1.50. Watch out if you're getting under that. You're probably not getting the paint quality you want. But the numbers were crazy. And I said, okay. I went back and said, well, we have a general contracting company. We'll do the paint and the carpet for you for $8,800, and that still included us making a 30% general contracting markup for our general contracting company. And so the guy bought the property at the 170, around the 167 we were offering it for. The additional $8,000, he'd still be well under the $180,000 of the ARV. For whatever reason, this investor got scared on it after he was outside of his due diligence period, which means that investor forfeited their due diligence as well as their earnest money deposit, costing that investor $1,600. Now, in my opinion, that is simply because they were scared or were not knowledgeable enough to operate on it. So just if you guys go into these projects, make sure that you have the confidence and the fortitude and the wherewithal to see a project through. Otherwise, you sit there going backwards like this guy did. So we ended up cutting that loose. I called up one of the other offers that we had on backup. This guy was a cash backup offer. He was willing to close it in 14 days and went ahead and sold it out that way. So we cost ourselves a little bit of time in the interim, but of course we were paid for that via our due diligence and our earnest money deposit funds. But we didn't have to send our crews out, and we didn't have to do any additional work and take on any additional risk of putting additional capital into the house. And we were able to pick up just a shade under $20,000 after all the different, after we pay all the realtor fees and the minor cleanout fees, the taxes, insurance, and things of that nature. Where if we would have run the model the other way, I think we would have been going for around $22,000 to maybe $23,000 in profit. So the extra 2 to 3 weeks and the extra capital that you're putting in the property, you really want to stop and ask yourself, is that extra potential $2,000 to $3,000 of profit worth the extra capital, risk, and time? And so going forward, we're going to try and list our properties up on the MLS prior to going into our projects, because in this case, it worked out really, really well. And this is the second time now that we've done this, where we've acquired the property through one of our off-market vendors, which is why, again, I tell you, get on the phone and call those. And so that was a deal we were super excited about. Worked out really well and closed that out last week. And between the initial contract and close was still only about 30 days, maybe 35 days. So we didn't lose a lot of time on the first one. And of course, we switched over to the second one right away. So that was one of my recent wholesale experiences. And those deals are out there. You gotta get in touch with people. You want to get as many deals coming in from as many different avenues as you can. So that's how that one worked for us.
Okay, so that's a mouthful, and I cannot talk as fast as Travis talks, so I'm going to back up and we're going to dive into each of these points for a minute. If this is your first time listening to us on this podcast, we're known as the tricksters of real estate. I'm going to let Travis give a real quick explanation of the trickster, not tricking, but tricksters, because that means we're always looking for alternative ways to get a deal done. Travis, why don't you tell people what you think about the tricksters and your definition of tricksters?
So my initial thought on that, it goes back to the Briar Rabbit. It's better a trickster than a martyr be. And it's not to go out and to deceive or to try and trick anybody out. It's my thought being, okay, here's what's going on. Here's what's going on, perhaps some behind the scenes. Again, in our former episodes, we discussed what's the trick behind the sign on the side of the road that says we buy houses cash. What's the trick behind that? How's someone profiting from that? And being able to kind of bring that to light and expose that to everybody so everyone can benefit from it. So that's, to reiterate, that's my thought on it.
Absolutely. So it's thinking outside the box. The other thing that we call these episodes, we call them talks. The reason we call them talks is because Travis and I and Brian and a lot of people in the office, we get together weekly and talk about things going on in the economy, going on in real estate. And Travis said I was going to take some credit for that deal, so here goes the credit for that deal. So we're on the phone one day. Hannah's overhearing our conversation because she's always listening over my shoulder, because if I miss something, she picks it up, grabs it, and runs with it. And we were, Travis at that point in time had several deals that he was working on. He said, look, here's one. If you want it, you can take it. Hannah overhears me while we're on the phone. She gets on the computer, pulls it up real quick, and she's the one that said, why are you not just putting it on the market and selling it like it is? So that's why you got to talk to people. You got to get yourself around a sphere of influence, people that are actively in the real estate market, doing what you choose and desire to do, changing lives. That's why you need to talk to people, hash out things, and then before long, you know it, Travis turns around, lists the thing up, and does a boom, quick sale on a wholesale deal. Now, I learned something that same day. Just yesterday, Hannah's walking me through math on a property that I've got in Durham, North Carolina. And I'm going to put $50,000 into this property and sell it for $200,000. She goes, whoa, 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 wait just a minute. And I want to bring you guys up to speed on these numbers, because this really opened my eyes as to, you know, I'm in it on a day-to-day basis, but sometimes I get very singularly tunnel visioned and don't look at the trickster side of everything. And the basic numbers on this deal were we had acquired this property all in for $63,000. We were going to invest another $50,000 in it to get an end retail of $200,000 in the Durham market. We could sell it for $200,000. Hannah looks at it real quickly, does a simple calculations, and she goes, okay, if you put it on the market and sell it for $121 and don't put a penny into it, you get a 48% return on your money. If you put your $50,000 into it, and if it takes you 3 months to do that, you get a 38.5% return on your money. What do you want to do? Well, I'll tell you what I wanted to do. I wanted to put it on and get the 48%. We listed that thing up and got a $121,000 offer, and we're not going to do a thing to the property. So that's the trickster side, that's the talking side, and that's why you want to surround yourself with people that aren't talking about it, but they're talking and doing. So that's one of the lessons we learned this week on the wholesaling side. Do your math. I mean, don't invest the extra money, the extra time, and the risk if you can get out of it and make a profit real quick.
And that just, it reminds me of Deep Survival, a book written by Lawrence Gonzalez, in which he discusses, you know, how people survive in different very difficult situations. And one of the things he mentions is that you need to look at everything from the beginner's mind, what he calls the Zen mind. And if I would have looked at this thing completely open at the beginning, I likely would have seen that. But I went into it with a very traditional scope point of view. And luckily, you know, like Tim said, have a sphere of influence around me that was able to wait, why, stop, double check. So yeah, just to reiterate your point.
So talk about it. I mean, you never know what someone else is going to be able to see that you aren't able to see while you're right in the middle of it. So that's just another one of the things that we're trying to just kind of share with you guys. You know, start doing some research. Start trying to figure out if you're interested in participating in deals like this, how you can actually participate. So a couple of other things we want to talk about that are on our agenda for today. We've got our media guy Chad with us today. Chad came to us a few months ago and we were talking about wholesaling properties. Chad's now completed a few of his own deals. So we're going to bring Chad in and let Chad kind of bring you up to speed on a property that Chad acquired on Beatty Road, a wholesale deal that he picked up, and he did his own rehab on it and has now sold that property. So let's welcome Chad to the podcast. We want to invite him in to kind of explain to you what he's done. All right, Chad, bring us up to speed on your property on Beatty Road. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, it's picking up there. So now that I'm over here, I have to watch the camera. So yeah, on just a little bit of what I do is I get a list from the county. Everybody can get a list from each county. So I get a list from the county of all the delinquent taxes in whatever county I'm looking for, whether it's Catawba County, Mecklenburg, any of those counties. This property happened to be in Gaston County. So I sent the lady a letter. I barely look at the properties. When I send these letters out, I make sure it's not in a gully. I make sure that there is a house supposed to be where I'm putting the letter, or sending the letter, and make sure, I don't, that's about all I do.
And with your letter, you're sending an actual offer, correct?
Yeah, because you don't know how many times I've talked to an individual saying, look, I get these things all the time. I get the yellow cards, the blue cards, I get whatever type of card, and they just throw them in the trash because there's no information on there other than we want to buy your house. They don't know what the price is. They don't know who these people are. And that's the difference to what I do. I actually handwrite an envelope. I go through and I find, this is kind of what I do. So I go through the tax list and I find the tax value of the actual house. If it's just land, I'll do a third of the cost or a fourth of the cost of the tax value. I put that offer in because now I know that I'm actually getting a good value. A fourth of what the tax value has got to be something. And then, so if it's a house, I'll usually do half the tax value. And pretty much all that is to get me into the door and actually talk to the people. And it works because some people call us like, dude, I get so many letters, but yours is the only one that had an offer on it. And so that makes it seem, because as soon as they see it's a handwritten envelope, they think, I'm getting a check or something, or somebody's wrote me a letter, which you can tell when it's computer generated, you can tell that it looks fake. Or, my handwriting's so bad, there's no way to be able to duplicate that. So anyway, I send the letter out, and they call me. Well, this particular lady called me, the Beatty Road project. She called, and I found out she had $6,500 in taxes that she owed on the property. It's a single wide trailer, but it's in a great area in Gaston on Beatty Road. So after I sent her a letter, we started talking. It took her a while to make the deal happen because every time I talked to her, she just went around in a circle. Every time I talked to her, she just went around in a circle and never would commit. So after I bumped it up just a little bit, I bought the property for $23,000. This one I didn't wholesale. I was going to wholesale. Actually, I did wholesale it to a guy. He just didn't show up for closing. He gave me $1,000 earnest money deposit, and he didn't show up for closing, and waited 2 weeks and didn't hear from. I don't even know if he's alive because I texted him, emailed him, sent him a letter.
But you got $1,000.
I got $1,000 to put it in the property. So now I'm like, well, what? I invited Tim over, and Tim's been like my mentor, and I feel like you're talking about surrounding yourself with people who know more than you. These Travis and Tim, man, they know a lot, and I feel privileged being here, being able to sit here between two of you guys. But that's kind of how I got the properties, because the guy bailed, and I was like, so I invited Tim over, and he took a look at the property. He said, I think you can flip this and make some money. So I was like, okay. So under his advice, I bought the property. I should have got someone to do the work themselves, not myself. I ended up having to do all the work, and I know how to do the work, and I listened to him telling Travis to get off the floor and stop pulling up tax strips, but I did not listen. So I ended up getting the property and did all the work myself. I put all the flooring in, I did all the painting, did all the cabinets. I mean, and you can do that stuff if you can go on YouTube and you can figure out how to do it. It's just the time it takes to do all this stuff. And I'd worked on houses, my old house that I bought before, and I was in construction doing flooring, so I knew how to do this stuff. But every weekend I'm there fixing this property up. So I bought it in May. I listed on the market in October. So now I have it under contract at $99,000. I bought it for $23,000, all in at $45,000.
And you're under contract at $99,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that so we're for that, it's a single wide trailer. So you had to get, someone's buying an FHA loan, so they had to be able to get
the anchor system, the whole deal,
yeah, and everything like that. So fingers crossed on that one. And but mostly this is the first flip I've done. Mostly I just wholesale pieces of property.
So at this point, it's the first one you've done. What's your opinion of it on the profit side versus, I know you did a lot of work on this one and you wouldn't, normally want to do all that much work, but let's quantify it for folks out there that if you are willing to put the work in, what would you say hourly you would have earned when you finally had this thing closed with the profit?
I don't know. Travis is over here.
Oh yeah, how many hours did you put in? How many hours did you put in? I can tell you the number.
I probably put in since May, which is since May to October.
Weekends, correct?
Just one weekend. Yeah, but I did have another. I had a crew come in. They put a new roof on. They put gutters. They put flooring. So my time would probably be one weekend from May to October. So like
16 hours?
8 hours a week.
8 hours a week.
for 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
So let's see.
We've got our mathematician going to
Well,
the right.
I mean,
We're just going to give you the real number.
This isn't real hard. I mean, it's 49,000 divided by 64.
You bought
So you're making $765 an hour when this closes.
Yeah.
And if you were to reiterate that on an annual basis, it's $765 an hour at 2,080 billable work hours in a given work year. You now make $1.59 million a year.
You know, you put it that way, it's
You're very successful person.
Now, guys, I will tell you, I've got a really, really good attorney, and I pay him a lot of money, and he charges $275.
So when you start running the math out, if you look at it from that perspective,
Yeah.
if you were able to duplicate that for 8 hours a day, for 2,080 billable work hours in a given work year, so when you run the math out, that's just what the calculator says.
yeah.
Now, let's just walk.
And I just started I just started in January, so it wasn't like that. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm somewhat sarcastic because there's certainly more hours to it than that. And all the time you spend on all the different mailers you send out to a lot of other properties and stuff like that. So it's not quite that cut and dry. But clearly you can start to see a path that allows people to get off of quit their $30, $40 an hour, jobs where you're making 50, 60 grand a year. And I think there's a lot of investors out there looking to get out and start supplementing that cubicle income.
Yeah, so if you only did 2 of those a year or 3 a year, proportionately, you're freeing up your time and you're bringing in more revenue. And so, you can take it from that level where you do each and every little job yourself as you're learning to the level of Travis now doing wholesale jobs, just listing stuff up on a computer and making $20,000, $30,000 just with the click of activation on MLS. So, when we talk about tricksters, multiple ways to think about things, we're always talking to all of these people, sharing the ideas, and that's what you got to do in today's market to survive and sustain, especially if we're getting ready to head into a little more difficult economic times. I think we're going to be seeing some really good opportunities to invest that money. Everybody agree with where we're going economically?
Get prepared.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're ready, you're prepared. There's going to be some good opportunities.
Sounds good. Well, that's our talk for today, Talk 8. We'll be back with you again soon, talking some more and just letting you know what we're doing. And again, very informal format. We don't want to burden you with all kinds of crazy stuff. We just want to share great information with you. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode, Talk number 8, and we'll see you for Talk 9 soon.
Bye.